to do with that leadership. You understand? You hold hands with this boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up and serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Yeah. See, everybody ain't with all that peace talk. Everybody ain't with all that. Let bygone be. Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to prophets. About to get serious. Boy, when they hit us with dope and kill us with crack, where the fuck with your leaders? I'm curious. You cashed out on your blood, traded you in and bought a new biz. Ask you the prophets, I tell you the scheme. If you don't wake up, you gon' die in your dreams. I say you won't tell you no more. I swear these crackers try to kill us slow. Just spoke to a nigga and fed he up on parole because of the COVID. It feel like the host in this world that don't go together. Know it's gold in the ghetto. I'm in the city blazing with my niggas. Just told the devil the score never settle. Yeah, see the prophets. I'm tired of these niggas keep talking about, you know, you respect my religion, I respect your religion. Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you the prophets. You know, like we all come together. Cause you know, they say God so loved the world. God so loved the world to know. Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you the prophets. Don't give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up and serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Yeah. Hey, gentlemen, we don't pray on our knees, nigga. Gotta stand up. You know what I'm saying? Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to I'm with step, I'm solid for show. To the fake niggas, stay silent, I got it, let's go, let's go. Ain't taking no losses, ain't no talking when we got the flow. Ain't no peace, just play with your own. I'ma be loyal to the right arm. Tell him we can't keep it slate. And I can never let bygone be bygone. Got your baby mother on high, or high. Your baby pass through the fire. Ask you the prophets, that baby soul belong to the Lord. I dare you.
Hey, shalom, Israel. Shalom. You there, young man?
God, so I'm here.
Let's get let me get Deuteronomy 28 and 68 and hold that. Man, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, I done had, you know how it is when it's, if it ain't one thing, it's another. You know what I mean? And when you're trying to do everything right and get everything in sequence, then Satan come and try to take away the word, man. I had a beautiful class prepared, and it was so many, it was just different things that came that tried to get in the way of that. But Most High in Christ, we here. And the information that I was going to bring out, I'm still going to bring it out. You know, everything else, we can go over what happened in Montgomery. We can go over what happened with Jamie Foxx. But really what I want to bring out is the fact that Israelites, I have a first-hand account of Israelites being in West Africa. To the naysayers and to the people that say that black people in America, excuse me, America could not actually be the Israelites or the biblical ethnic Jews of the Bible. Now, when it, man, that water is so good. Now, when it's, when you look at history, basically what you see happen a lot is diffusion of what they find and the things that they dig up. They say, well, we have the evidence, but this possibly cannot be true because of the record that they wrote. So the white man is confused when he digs up records or when you have firsthand accounts, because he's so used to being in charge. He's so used to telling history how he wants history to be. And when something comes that conflicts that, he says that it's not credible or it couldn't possibly be true. Just like the example with the Native American Indians, the Gadites, the North American Indian, having customs in ways that were similar to the Israelites. The Europeans would say, yeah, but how did they get over here? That's impossible that they could be part of the lost 10 tribes, right? So we're going to bring out a story about a brother named Elada Equeno, right? And Elada Equeno was born in West Africa. He was born in southern Nigeria, in the areas in the inland part of West Africa. And he has an amazing story, and I'm gonna get to that. But first, to set the stage, we have to bring out, you know, the precept that everybody should know. This should be one of the precepts, one of your bedrock precepts that you have in your precept book, to bring out the fact that the transatlantic slave trade wasn't by accident, and that this was part of a prophecy and a curse that only happened to a small handful of people. getting put on slave ships, getting conquered by people and you didn't know their language. They had the symbol of the eagle. In fact, give me Deuteronomy 28 and 49, I believe. If you could, young man.
It said 28 and 49.
Khan.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
The Bible says that the Lord will bring a nation from far. He would bring a nation upon the Israelites from another part of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. And I love how the Bible is, because when you grow up in Christianity, you look at the Bible as literal. So you'll look at certain things like they're actual literal. Like he says, swift as the eagle flieth, not knowing that that's symbolism. That's that's not literal, that's figuratively, And then you think about what nations have the symbol of the eagle. Many of those European nations have the symbol of the eagle. So this nation you wouldn't understand their tongue. They would have the symbol of the eagle. Go ahead.
Come on. As swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Right. You would not understand their tongue, meaning you wouldn't understand their language. And you know what? I think I do want to talk about this a little bit. What happened in Montgomery, Alabama. I do want to go into it a little bit. I know Brothers has been going in all week, but there's some things that I wanted to bring out on that incident. And I just wanted to say, Black people don't never actually see justice. For so long, just like what we're going to go into, the transatlantic slave trade, and then after that, Jim Crow and all of the other, all of the other things that they done to us, we're used to not seeing, swift vengeance upon the people who've done us wrong. In this case, it's our oppressors. We're used to, seeing them hurt us, brutalize us, do us wrong. We're used to the police officers getting off and not, being prosecuted. We've come accustomed to that. And deep down inside, Black people have something in them. Hispanic and Native American Indian people, y'all got something in you, which is the spirit of the Lord, that you don't want to let out of you. You suppress it. You don't want to, offend anyone. And you want to look like the good Negro that minds his business and is a good token example of how all Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians should be, right? But that's not the spirit of the Lord. And so for so long, things like that have held us to a point where we won't get our vengeance on an oppressor. We'll get our vengeance on each other. So what you see happens in our community is the vengeance that we should give. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying go out and do anything to anybody. We don't promote violence, but I'm just saying the thing that you feel, the oppression and the anger that you feel, you let it out and you let it rage on your brothers and sisters for simple things, for something as simple as bumping into you, something as simple as just looking at somebody. Did you ever thought how crazy that is when it comes to us? Like we can literally die over having a staring contest. This doesn't happen in other races, but this is because for so long we had to suppress our real feelings, suppress all of that anger and all of that frustration and pain and trauma that we were suffering at the hands of our oppressors. And we let it out and we rage upon one another. That's just something to think about. But see, that thing that Black people saw, and you saw the reaction of Black people, you saw the reaction of everybody as far as, it was a proud moment. It was a proud moment to see the oppressor gets what he actually deserves swiftly. It was a proud moment to see, brothers come to the defense of one brother swiftly. How all our people came together like transformers and just moved on the oppressor. And it was deserving, right? It was righteous. It was a beautiful thing. And Black people just They're like, what is it like? What's the word I was going to say? What was that saying that Martin Luther King used to say? He wanted something to roll down, justice to roll down like a mighty stream. Well, justice rolled down like a mighty stream in Montgomery, Alabama, you know, and it was so fitting because later on I heard that this used to be a area where they would auction off slaves, and the boat was named Harriet after Harriet Tubman. So it was just crazy and poetically fitting that whole episode happened. But it shows that we can come together, and if we come together on that level, right? If we come together and say, you're not going to sell drugs in our community, and say, you're not going to sell stuff in our community, and say, these are the morals we want in our community. You're not going to be half naked on social media in our community. We could change the Black and Hispanic community overnight. And that's all in the Bible. That was the spirit of the Lord, what you saw. Those brothers and sisters are in the world, but that is definitely the spirit of the Lord. And if you could, brother, give me Zephaniah 2:1 real quick so I could just elaborate a little bit more on that. You know what? Give me, just forget about that. Give me Ezekiel 36:16. Ezekiel 36:16. So, like, that might not be what I want. Give me 1 second. I know it's in Ezekiel. Let's see. Let me see. What I want. Give me Ezekiel 25:14. So
25:14.
25:14.
Okay. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 25, verse 14. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel.
What did the Lord say?
And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand
Lord
of
said he will lay his vengeance upon Edom. Who are the Edomites? It's your so-called oppressors today. It's the whole entire Caucasian race. No matter if they're European, Australian, whatever the case may be. The Lord said what?
I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel.
The Lord will lay vengeance. Salaki. The Lord will lay vengeance upon Edom by the hands of his people Israel. This is a future prophecy. So this is something that is going to happen. The Lord is going to take out all of his frustration. Let me get there with you. The Lord is going to take out all of his frustration, all of those things that have ever happened to us at the hands of the Edomites. The Lord is going to do to them by the hands of his people, the Israelites. Right? Just give me 1 second. Let me get here real quick, because I think it's more in there. Let me see. No, we can drop that. We can drop that. Now give me Ecclesiastes 3:8.
Come on.
Ecclesiastes 3:8. See, things, you see something like this incident in Montgomery, Alabama, you could see that it boosted the confidence of Black people.
Right.
People that have never ever got to see anybody get what they deserve when it comes to Europeans, the so-called oppressor, harming us, hurting us, doing things that they shouldn't do to us, treating us unfairly. We rarely get to see that opportunity. Go ahead.
Come on. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate.
Oh, go to verse 7. Skip up to verse 7.
Come on. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak.
So, like it, let me get verse 1. I think I might want verse 1, then skip down to verse 8.
Come on.
Where it talks about there's a time for everything under the sun.
Come on. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven.
Right.
Verse. Oh, sorry. Want me to skip down now?
No, skip down. Right. So to every there's a season for everything. There's a time for everything. And black people, Hispanic and Native Indian people, for so long, we've been in a time to love our oppressors. We've been in a time to, try to be like our oppressors, try to fit in, try to trim our ways and change our ways to fit in. And we've always felt like that's what we needed to do in order to survive, in order to exist in America. Go ahead.
Verse 7. A time to rend and a time to sow.
It's a time to
keep
rip.
silent.
It's a time to rip and it's a time to sow. Go ahead.
A time to keep silence and a time to speak. Verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate.
So we done passed the time of loving our oppressors. We should have passed that time. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians should have got over the time of loving. You know when that time was? That time was right after they conquered you. Right after the Spanish conquistadors conquered the Mayans and conquered the Aztecs, they joined forces with them. They looked at them like they was benevolent men, and they had good intentions, and they were pushing the image of, the religion of Jesus Christ, and they just wanted to get along with them, and so they joined them right after they had massacred hundreds of thousands of their people. The same with the Gadites. The Gadites joined the white man. The same with Black Americans, the tribe of Judah. You joined the white man, the Buffalo Soldiers, and you joined it to fight your brothers. The Aztecs, many of the Aztec tribes, the Spanish could not beat the Aztecs. But you know how they beat them? They beat them by other Aztec tribes joining them and helping their fight. That's the same thing. We loved them at the same time when they were oppressing us. We loved them even more during the time of Jim Crow, when it was beating us upside our head when we're trying to go into one of their restaurants. We loved them even more when Martin Luther King came and we started to walk and hold hands with them and say, like, we desire to go in your restaurants. We desire to be in the same schools. We desire one day that a little black boy and a little white girl can hold hands. We desire that one day we could be judged by the content of our character. And that day never came. We're 60 years later, and that day has never came. You don't get judged by your character. You get judged if you're a Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian by the color of your skin and what you look like and where you come from. So for so long, we have tried to love. We've tried that. But now the Lord is saying, read verse 8 again.
Come on.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate.
Now it's a time. Salaki. Now it's a time to hate. It is now a time to, look at your history. Look at what the progress that you haven't made. Look at the fact that these people still hate you. Realize that nothing is going to change. Realize that maybe you should go back to what the Lord prescribed in the Bible, which is to never be like these people. Never try to trim your ways or seek their prosperity or seek their love. Maybe you should hate Christmas. Maybe you should hate your sisters being half naked on stripper poles. Maybe you should hate weed. Maybe you should hate killing your brother. Maybe you should hate the culture that America has given you. America gave you that culture. You didn't get Black and Hispanic people wasn't killing. Like, we had issues, but we wasn't killing each other like we kill each other today. Our women wasn't degrading themselves to like our women never degraded themselves like they doing today. We wasn't doing, executions and murders and, doing all of these senseless things that we do today. But guess who did it first? The people that you decided to love. The people that you decided to love gave you their culture. So in essence, Black culture is American culture. Mexican culture is American culture. Native American Indian culture is American culture. But thanks God to the I.S.U.P.K that we're trying to bring you back to your true culture, to your
That's
true
right.
identity, to who you really are, and who you really are, and who Christ is, and who the Most High is. They're separate, they're holy, and they hate every foul way. They hate every detestable way, and they also, and it's nothing wrong with hating your oppressor. It's absolutely nothing wrong with hating the people that done what they've done to you. Nothing like what has happened to us has happened to anybody in the world. Don't ever let nobody what is it, gaslight you or try to rationalize or try to downplay the atrocities that have happened to Mexicans, that have happened to Black people, that have happened to Native American Indians, because it has never happened before in the history of the world. Don't ever let them, the people come and say, well, my people were slaves, the Irish were slaves, or we went through oppression, or they'll say things like that. But you just know that there's no one in the world that have went through what your people have gone through. Is that it on it?
Gone, sir. Or no, Salaki, that's not it. That's not it.
Go ahead.
A time of war and a time of peace.
A time of war and a time of peace. And listen, I thought to the Christians, I thought that God didn't hate. I thought the Lord wasn't about war. A lot of y'all say don't war, love. That's what the brother Marlon Wayans. Marlon Wayans said, I can't really remember what he said, but he said something to the liking of about this Montgomery boat incident. He said that it was foolish, it was stupid, right? I'm paraphrasing. I don't really remember, but I kind of get the gist of what he was saying. It was foolish. Then he said, why, like, don't hate, why not love? You get what I'm saying? That's what he said. Well, the Lord said, no, it's about war. It's a time to war, and it's a time to love, but it's also a time to hate.
Right.
It's a time to go to war, but it's a time to refrain from war. Now, that's why you cannot put your trust in celebrities, because the white man's money silences their mouths, and they can't say anything. They can't speak on issues for being afraid of them losing their fortune, right? But we're gonna speak the truth. We're gonna speak the truth all day. We niggas from the ghetto, we niggas from the barrio, we from the reservation. We're going to speak the truth and don't give a damn if we lose our jobs. Don't give a damn who comes up against us. We're going to tell the truth. And the truth is that Black and Hispanic people have to refrain from loving these people. They have to refrain and back off and look at these people and realize that nothing has never changed, and their attitude towards us has not changed. This is not, what do they say? This is not hate speech. This is truth speech. It just so happens that the truth is something that your oppressor hates. Your oppressor hates the truth. Anytime you talk about your history, they want to change the subject. Anytime you want to talk about your history and the atrocities they've committed against you, they want to say you're race baiting. They want to say you're pulling a race card. You understand? They try to find and wiggle their way out of the conversation, right? So you have to see these things and understand that. Drop that. Give me Jeremiah 51:20, and then we're going to move on to this information I'm bringing out. You're right, brother. You're right, young man. Jay, money is their God, and they took the bait. Damn right.
So, like you said, 21 and 50.
Jeremiah 51:20. Salaki.
Oh, okay.
Jeremiah 51:20.
Okay. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 20. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war.
Mm-hmm.
For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms.
Salaki. Read that one more time. Read it from the top one more time. Salaki.
Okay. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war.
The Lord said that we are his battle axe and weapons of war. We're we're what the Lord is going to use to destroy these nations.
Right.
You've never heard this in the Christian church. You thought that, everybody's going to fly up in the sky and hug Christ in the middle of the sky. The Lord said he's going to use Israel. We are his. Read that again. Read it from the top again.
God. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 20.
Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war.
Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. We are the weapons of war.
Right.
Like right now, our weapon of war is this right here, our mouths, going out and reaching and teaching our brothers and sisters. But it's going to come a time when we are going to actually be the weapons of war. We are actually going to move through this place and destroy, right? Keep reading.
Come. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations.
What? Read that one more time, Salage.
For with thee will I break in pieces the nations.
So the Lord said with us, he's going to use us. He's going to use blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians to break in pieces the nations, to destroy the nations, to do exactly what you saw happen on that port in Montgomery, Alabama. That's what the Lord is going to use us for. Keep reading. Is there any more?
Come. And with thee will I destroy kingdoms.
Is that it?
Come, you want me to read verse 21?
He said, and with thee, I will read that last part again.
And with thee will I destroy kingdoms.
Keep going.
Verse 21. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider.
He said, I'm going to break in pieces the horse and his rider. Who's the horse and his rider? That's part of the song that Moses and the Israelites sung after the Egyptians were destroyed in the Red Sea, right? Break down the horse and the rider, meaning the power of America, the horse and the rider, the military. You understand? Go ahead.
And with thee will I break in pieces the chariots and his rider.
Keep going.
Verse 22. With thee also will I break in pieces man and woman.
And
with thee will I break in pieces old and young. And with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid.
Keep going.
Verse 23. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock.
The religious leaders. Go ahead.
Right. And with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen. And with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers.
Keep going.
And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea.
I will what? I will render unto who?
Unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord.
Now, this is not talking about actually Babylon and Chaldea. This is talking about the daughter of Babylon. This is talking about America. This is talking about the European Union. This is talking about this world order that they got going on. It just described every facet of life, from the shepherd to the man that that does agriculture, to men and women, old and young. He's going to break in pieces these nations with the Israelites. And that's coming to a theater near you. All right. So you could drop that. Let's get so I want Deuteronomy 28. Let's go back to Deuteronomy, because I just left it. I just sidebarred. But let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And then I'm gonna bring this out. We're gonna bring this book out.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
The Lord will bring us into slavery again with ships. Now, what is that? What is that precept for Egypt being the house of bondage? I believe it's Exodus 20 and 1. Exodus 20 and 1. Keep reading.
Come on. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
So where Moses is telling the Israelites that if you look at the whole chapter, of Deuteronomy 28, it starts off with the blessings. If we listen to the Lord, if we do what we are told, how we will be blessed. Then it goes into the curses, right? So this whole, where Moses is telling the Israelites where he's laying this out at, It's saying in Deuteronomy 68, what he just read is we won't see that no more. That land where we were told that, we won't see that no more. We would go into Egypt again by ships, and where he's telling us this that we won't see that land no more. Go ahead. Still there? Young man.
It's like it's laggy. So hold on. Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Salakia. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
And no man shall buy you. So bondmen and bondwomen are slave men and slave women, right? I think everybody should know that by now. If you've been in the truth or you've been around for some time, you will know that. But, you know, unbeknownst to you is so many brothers and sisters that don't know the Bible for the first time. They have heard about the truth. There are millions of brothers and sisters that have just been locked in their world, and they have never heard this truth. So it's sometimes it's kind of weird, especially for somebody like me that's been around for a while. It's kind of weird to, see people that have not heard of it, not even the least bit. And you think because of social media, things move around and get around, but they really don't. People are locked into their own algorithms and they only see what they see. And so that's why we have to continually review, continually, bring out these precepts, because there's so many brothers and sisters that have never heard the truth in their life right now, have never heard of this truth. We encounter people like that all the time in the streets that is for the first time it's like shell shocked. It's like, they're starstruck of what they're hearing, right? Culture shock, So right now I'm going to go into this book. Like I was talking about, this is the interesting narrative of the life of Alada Iqueno, Gustavus Vasa, the African, right? Now, his name was Alada. Let me see if I can put this up here. Now, this book ain't like recently I did a video on the book I had, right? I got this book. It's worth $14,000. I didn't pay for the book. But I did a video on Black Authentic Truth, and people was upset like that I didn't make it into a PDF, and why am I showing it if I'm not going to show all the pages? And I said, well, I'll do one on this one. And this is an affordable book. You can get this book like at Amazon or a bookstore. It's an affordable book. It's been in print since I believe maybe the 18 or the 1900s, right? So this brother was African. Now I'm just going to lay it down real quick because of time constraint. I'm just going to lay it down, right? And then we're going to go into some precepts, and we're going to go into what he remembered, right? So Alada Iqueno lived in southern Nigeria in the interior by the Gold Coast. If you know a little bit about the slave trade, Africans would go inside into the interior and raid other peoples, right? Kidnap other peoples, put them in a caravan and march them back to the seashore, and put them in chains, put them in prisons, put them in castles. And these Africans got really rich, and they would negotiate with European slave ship masters. So now this is one thing you can research. There's a lot of slave ship masters that actually wrote memoirs of their experiences. One of them is Captain Hugh, which I got that book also, where he tells you that he's seen the difference between the people that he had enslaved and the people who were the slavers. So he didn't say they were Israelites, but he just said he acknowledged that there was a difference, right? But so these Africans would go in there. A lot of Iqueno lived in a nice area. It was a very fruitful area as far as the land. His people were a plain people. Like Jacob was a plain man. They lived by, hunting and agriculture. One day when all the people were out to work, some Africans came and kidnapped him and his sister. So as he's telling his experience, he's kidnapped. That he gets taken to some people. He escaped from them. He's seen some people that he thought were friendly, and he asked them for help. They enslaved him. Now, he basically tells you that when he gets to the shore, he had never been that far away from his homeland. He knew he was far away from his homeland, and he's seeing all type of other people that don't practice his customs that his people practice. We're going to get into it. Like his people practice circumcision, and he saw these different Africans that had scars all over their face, that had sharpened their teeth, and he was just surprised that it was all of these different people. But he acknowledged that in his account of his life that there were different kind of people in Africa that didn't have the same customs as his people. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to read some things that are these things you can use. If you get this book, you can use, because it's a firsthand account without a shadow of a doubt. He's telling his story of what he remembered. So let me just speed it up real quick. So he gets on a slave ship, goes to Barbados, then they take him to Virginia. From Virginia, he gets on a naval ship, and he kind of lives his life on a naval ship, getting educated and all that till he grows up. Now, he wrote this as a recount, thinking back how his childhood was. And he could see his childhood very clearly, and he could tell all the things. And so he was Christian, and he started to learn the Bible. He learned the Bible, and as he's learning the Bible, he starts to realize that his people are very similar to the Israelites. Now, when he was in Africa, he didn't know he was an Israelite. When he was in Africa, he was just living. But when he got educated, and he looks back, and now he's writing this memoir, he can clearly break down what his life was like growing up. So I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna read it. The young man doesn't have the book, so I'm gonna have to read some of the excerpts. But for now, what I want you to get, young man, I want you to get this in whole. Leviticus 23:10. All right, and I'm gonna get straight to it. So let me pull this up real quick.
Sir. So Leviticus 20:10.
Leviticus 20:10. So this is the excerpt I'm going to read, and then we're going to get the precept to go with it. He says, I remember many used to come see me, and I was carried about to others for that purpose. Meaning when he was born, and they would pass the new child around for everybody to see him. He said they had many offerings, particularly at full moons, generally 2 at harvest, before the fruits are taken out of the ground. Now, this was similar to first fruits, right? So not only did they have offerings on new moons, they had offerings when they harvest their food, like the Israelites, and we'll get that. He says, and when any young animals are killed, sometimes they offer up part of them as a sacrifice. These offerings, when made by one of the heads of the family, serve for the whole family, right? He also goes on to say, some of our offerings are eaten with bitter herbs. Now, these are things that you could say everybody does it, but everybody didn't have offerings where they ate bitter herbs. That was the Passover. So if you could give me what I asked for. Let me get that.
Come on, sir. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 20 and verse 10. And the man that committed the... Salaki, this is not it. This is adultery.
What do you got? 23 and 10?
No, this is... Oh, Salaki, you said 20 and 10. Salaki.
23 and 10.
Come on, okay. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 10. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
Now, whenever we would get a harvest, you would bring your first fruits, and it would be a sheaf offering, right? You would make an offering. The key point is that these customs are Israelite customs in West Africa, right? They made offerings, basically when they got their first fruits. You know what I mean? So a sheaf offering. Oh, keep reading.
Okay. Verse 11. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you.
Right.
On the morrow.
So you can stop. So a sheaf offering, you would bring your first fruits, and the priest would take, like I think it was called an ephah of barley or wheat, and he would wave it before the Lord for offering for you. Right. That was a sheaf offering. You could drop that. Give me what I want is, what's the one? Give me the Passover one. Let me see. Exodus 12:5.
God, sir.
Because remember, they made offerings also eating bitter herbs. This is something that is only specific to the Israelites.
God, sir. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. Verse 6. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Verse 7. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. Verse 8. They shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. And with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
With bitter herbs and eat it. Just showing you these are actually things that are in the Bible that this brother is recounting. This is how they used to live when he was growing up before he was kidnapped and put on a slave ship. So I'm going to read a little bit more. Now he says, we practice circumcision like the Jews and made offerings and feasts on that occasion in the same manner as they did. Like them also, our children were named from some event, some circumstance, or fancy foreboding at the time of their birth. Now, this is his own words. He's saying we got circumcised just like the Jews. If you could give me Leviticus 12:13. Now, were Israelites the only people that do some type of form of circumcision? No. But at birth is the criteria. Everybody don't get circumcised at birth. You got some Africans that'll wait till you 30 years old to circumcise you, right? To go through some type of ritual. So this is another clue or another this is just showing you another connection between what their customs were and what the Israelites' customs were. And this is a brother coming from West Africa during the time of the slave trade, actually going through the slave trade, being stolen, him and his sister being stolen and put on slave ships. You got that? Young man,
so you said Leviticus 12 and
Leviticus 12:3.
12:3, okay. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 12, verse 3. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised.
Is that maybe you want to skip up? Skip up 1 or 2, maybe start at 1.
Okay. The book of Leviticus, chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a woman have conceived seed and born a male child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. According to the days of the separation for her infirmity, and shall she be unclean. Verse 3. And in the 8th day of the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised.
Right, he shall be circumcised. So on the 8th day you will be circumcised at birth, basically when you're born, right? But you have other peoples, other races, other nationalities that do this, but they don't do it on the 8th day. It was not when you was born. It'd be something like when you're like 12 years old. They do that thing in Africa with them women. That's horrible. They circumcise women. And I don't think they little girls, they're women when they circumcise them. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna keep going, and what I want you to grab me. Let's see. You could grab me Leviticus 15 and 19 and just hold that. All right. Just hold that while I read. I'm gonna read some more. I'm gonna read some more, and we're gonna get it in. So here's a little bit more. He says, those that touch the dead at any time were obliged to wash and purify themselves before they could enter a dwelling house. That is also a law. That is also a custom of the Israelites. You can't touch a dead body. You're unclean. If you step into a funeral parlor, you're unclean for 7 days. Right? These are not customs that anybody has. Other nations don't have these type of customs, right? You got some nations, some people, they dig up the dead body and dress it up and sit it up in the living room with them. You got some people that actually, take the ashes of their lost one and basically sit it at the table or sit it on, on the TV and act like they dear with them, act like they love when it's dear with them. You got some people that, touching a dead body ain't nothing to them. That's part of, life. But by no instance was we to be touching a dead body, or you would be unclean. And we see here in West Africa, we see here through this brother, this is a custom that they had, right? Let me keep reading. It says, every woman too, at certain times, was forbidden to come into a dwelling house or touch any person or anything we ate. So what he is talking about is when a woman is on her flower, you can't touch her. You can't touch whatever she sit on is unclean. She can't cook food for you. You can't come up to your woman and slap her on the behind when she's on the flower, or you will be unclean, right? I'm gonna keep reading. I was fond of my mother. I could not keep from her or avoid touching her at some of those periods, in consequence of which I was obliged to be kept out with her in a little house made for that purpose till offering was made, and then we were purified. This is Israelite custom 101. This is the Bible 101. His mother, when she was on her flower, she would stay in a separate house. And because he couldn't stop touching his mother as a little child, like any child would be, he was unclean too, and he would have to stay out with his mother. Ain't that something? Right now, give me that, brother. Give me the one that I asked for.
Go on, sir. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 15, verse 19. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days.
So if a woman have an issue, which is meaning if a woman is on her flower, she would be set apart for how many days? 3 days? 2 days?
She shall be put apart 7 days.
For 7 days. She will be separated from the congregation for 7 days. Keep reading.
Come on. And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even.
And whosoever touches her shall be unclean also. Right? Keep reading.
Come on. Verse 20. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean.
And everything that she lieth on shall be unclean. Go ahead.
Come on. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean.
Everywhere she sits shall be unclean. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even.
So whoever touches her bed, read that again. So listen to me, young man. Every time you finish a precept, I want you to pause because I might want to interject. Okay.
Okay,
no sweat. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes.
So whoever touches her bed shall wash their clothes, right? And I was going to bring this up. I'm going to bring it up about this is science. Like a lot of people say science ain't in the Bible. This is science right here. Keep reading.
Come on. And bathe himself in water.
Keep going.
And be unclean until the even.
Keep going.
Verse 22. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes.
Okay, so what I want to bring out is that you notice how if you touch something where she's been bleeding on, you're unclean and you gotta wash your clothes and you gotta wash that bedding. You just gotta. The Israelites were clean. It also goes into the Bible goes into if a man has an issue from his genitals, if he's continually bleeding or leaking something, he's unclean. Also, if he ejaculates, right, and whatever he ejaculated on, all of that is unclean, and you shouldn't lay in it, right? And so this is the point what I was making about science. Like, we know about things being contagious, about people catching stuff. You know what I mean? Whether it be, some type of sickness, a cough, or whatever. This is in the Bible. Like, if you're going to, who's going to lay around in some in a bed or anywhere where somebody's been bleeding at, or where somebody's been, leaking at, or had an issue of anything dripping on something from some bodily fluid? That is unsanitary. You're going to get sick. Someone else is going to get sick. It could be contagious. Somebody else could catch something from that. And so you can see here, even in this brother's story, they were very clean. They were clean, they were unclean, and then they set themselves apart and got purified, right? And you see that with the Israelites. We got purified. We were a very hygienic, clean people. At least the laws were set in place for us to be that way. Because if you're not clean and hygienic, then that's where diseases and all kind of things come from, right? I'm gonna read some more of this story and just show you that this brother, and I'm gonna show you that they were Israelites, but then we're gonna go into the scriptures and see why they didn't realize they were Israelites, and why even when this brother wrote this story, when he told about his life, he didn't know that he was an Israelite. He was just telling his story, but he didn't know hundreds of years later that brothers in the I.S.U.P.K would pick up his story and read it and relate it to the Bible. All right. So I'm going to read a little bit more. It says, such as the imperfect sketch in my memory has furnished me with the manners and customs of a people among who I first drew my breath. And here I cannot forbear suggesting what has long struck me very forcibly, namely the strong analogy which even by this sketch, imperfect as it is, appears to prevail in the manners and customs of my countrymen and those of the Jews. So he says, I'm starting to see that a lot of my manners and a lot of the ways of my countrymen appear to be just like the Jews. And he's saying before they reach the land of promise. So before they reach Israel, meaning the Jews, the Israelites, when they were in the wilderness, and particularly the patriarchs, which they were yet in the pastoral state, which is described in Genesis, right? So he's seeing all of these similarities, and he's confused because he doesn't see them in no other people, right? And I'm gonna get this one. Let me give you this one. He says this: like the Israelites in their primitive state, our government was conducted by our chiefs and judges, our wise men and elders. The head of the family with us enjoyed a similar authority over his household with that which is ascribed to Abraham and the other patriarchs. The law of retaliation obtained mostly universal with us as with them. And even their religion appeared to have shed upon us a ray of its glory. Though broken and spent in its passage, or eclipsed by a cloud with time, tradition, and ignorance might have enveloped it. For we had our circumcisions, our sacrifices, burnt offerings, and washings and purifications on the same occasions as they did. So this brother, when he got educated, he started to look, and now he was ignorant of Jews, Israelites, Chinese, anybody. He was ignorant of all people until he got, he came out of Africa through the slave trade and got educated. But when he got educated, he started to look and see, as he's reading the Bible and he's remembering how he grew up, he's like, wait a minute, like we grew up similar to the Israelites, right? And so what he goes into is that, for some reason, maybe eclipsed by time or tradition, we done lost that connection. He's trying to connect the dots, but he can't really connect the dots. But he's speculating, maybe because of the cloud of time has passed, so much time has passed, or so many different traditions have been put in place that you can't really find a connection, but there's definitely something there. And so if you could give me Jeremiah 17 and 4, this is why he couldn't make the connection. This is why he saw the similarities, but he couldn't there's no connection to be made, right?
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee.
The Lord discontinued us from our heritage that he gave us. Now we went into, the interiors of Africa. We went into through the Horn of Africa from Israel, and we ended up as far as South Africa. There's Israelites as far as what is a place called Cambodia, Angola, and down that way. And so the Lord cut us off. So when you talk about 70 AD, when Titus and Vespasian came and destroyed the Jewish state and Jews fled into the interiors of Africa, 70 AD, we're talking about Africans at the time of the slave trade with the 1600 to 1700s. You're talking about 1500 plus years of the Israelites moving about, living and dying in the land of Africa by the time the transatlantic slave trade came. So by that span of time, they had picked up many different customs, had intermingled with the Hamites, and were living like heathens in a lot of cases. But the curses are real. And those slave ships came, and Israelites found themselves on them slave ships. And just like the curses had predicted 4,000 years ago, they found themselves on them slave ships, and they went to Barbados in the West Indies and Jamaica in North America and South America and into Spain. They went on those slave ships. They suffered those, what we read in Deuteronomy, that did happen. That was prophesied. So whether or not we could tell by name or by custom who the Israelites are, we do know that the prophecies came true. We know that much. You understand? And we know we're here today. And if you could give me this one. And this is why we know who we are, right? Give me 1 second. Let me see. Give me 1 Kings 8 and 47. 1 Kings 8 and 47. This is why we know who we are. You understand? Because the Lord decided, like the brother just read the precept, Jeremiah 17 and 4, the Lord discontinued us from our heritage. He cut us off. He turned his back for a time on us. He allowed us to go into captivity. He allowed us to be profane and be heathens. Allowed us to forget that we was God's chosen people. That's what you see with a lot of Equino. He was living the life, his people were living the life of the Israelites, but discontinued from their heritage, living in the land of Africa, and discontinued from any knowledge of who they were. But thanks to the Lord that this brother wrote that, right? This brother didn't even know what he was writing would come down the ages and show proof of the customs and the ways and the manners of God's chosen people in West Africa. You got that for me, young man? Let me know when you got it. You there, young man? Oh, he dropped. No sweat. Let me get it. I'll get it for you. I got you. This is why we know. This is why we know who we are today. This is 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 47. Yet if they bethink themselves, maybe I should skip up. Let me skip up. I think I want to skip out. I think I want to get some context. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse. I'm going to start at. Let me see here. I'll start at verse 46. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 46. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, thou be angry with them and deliver them to the enemy, so that they can carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy, far or near. Yet if they bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and so return unto thee with their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for my name. Then hear thou their prayer and their supplication in heaven by dwelling place, and maintain their cause. We would have to bethink and remember. That's what it means to bethink. Bethink ourselves in the land of our captivity. That's why we know who we are today, because the information was lost. The identity was lost. It wasn't just lost when we got on slave ships. Our identity was already gone when we got on slave ships. We was heathens when we got on slave ships. When black people was put on transatlantic slave trade, we had already lost our identity. We had already lost the fact or the idea that we were God's chosen people. To a certain extent, a lot of us have forgotten that, right? Because you can just look at the Gadites. It's the same with the North American Indians. They have semblances, or they do some things that are still connected to Israel, which is wearing the fringes and the way that they look at the creator and all of that. But for the most part, they became heathens. They took on their own ways. That's the same with the Aztec and the Mayans. They took on their own ways with the sacrifices and doing all of that stuff, but they still held on to some things. The same as what I just read with this book with a lot of Equino. They had plenty of manners and customs that no other people can say that are theirs but the Israelites. But they still didn't remember who they were because the Lord had cut us off from being a nation. And then we got here in America. And then we, in 1969, we bethought ourselves. We turned around and looked and said, hey, those people over there ain't the real Jews. They don't have the history that's written down and laid down from the foundations of the earth. We got the history to prove that we the real Jews. We God's chosen people. And we start to realize who we are, and we turn and face the east and pray for forgiveness. We turned and face the east and ask the Lord to wake up more our brothers and sisters. We turn and face the east to ask the Lord to give us strength, because it's not easy. It's not easy being an Israelite. It's not easy telling everybody, including your people, that God don't love everybody. You don't got no friends when you come into the truth. You don't got no damn friends when you come into the truth. You got to be strong, rock solid, hardcore, unfailing, and you got to have the mind that this could end anytime. Like, you got to have the attitude that this could all go up in flames at any time. And if it does, I want to be on the chariot. If it does, I want to be there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna put in the work no matter what. You think it's easy for brothers to go out there in them streets? It's not easy for brothers to go in them streets and speak to a hard-headed people. It's not easy coming from a personal standpoint. Some brothers are not used to going out in public and speaking. That takes a lot of bravery. That takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot to dig in within yourself to go out there when your whole life you've been living in some damn hole, smoking weed in the hood your whole life. You understand? So the fact that we have turned and we have changed, we have realized who we are, is nothing but glory to the Most High, that He had mercy on us to allow us to think and remember who we were in this place, because this place throws so many things at us that, hell, what's the point of remembering you're an Israelite when you can be a hoe, you can be a stripper, you could sell drugs, you can, weed is legalized now, you could live to your pleasure's extent, to your heart's desires in America. Why would you want to be an Israelite in turn and fight your flesh every day? Fight trying to chase hoes every day. Fight trying to get high how you used to get high and hang on the block. Fight that flesh, fight that old man. Why would you want to do that when America is doing and advertising all of these things to you every day in your face, right? It takes a strong person. It takes a strong brother, a strong woman to do that. A hellified strong woman to do that. You know what I'm saying? With all of the things they throw at sisters, it's crazy. All of the images they throw at sisters and how to be, and how to, why you should take your clothes off, and, you should get paid from OnlyFans, and, you deserve this, you deserve that. That's crazy. It takes a strong sister to say, I'm done with the world. I want what the Lord got for me. I want to serve the Lord. I want to be a righteous sister. I want to help my people. I want to focus on those things. I want to raise up my family. I want to raise my kids. I want to teach my kids right things. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I brought out this information, and let me just get this one more precept I want to get. You there, young man?
Back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There's another precept I want to get that dang, I was just thinking about it. You right, young man. Listen, the Most High is not the God of the dead, man. Right? We serve a living God, man. And the sad part is a lot of our people are walking around living dead. The walking dead. Just
right.
You there, but you walk outside your door and it's a damn cemetery. It ain't no tombstones. It's actually people that's alive walking around, but it's a cemetery when you walk outside your door, right? And we're there to be the light in that cemetery, to bring up those dry bones. Let me get Ezekiel. Give me Ezekiel 37. Let me see. I'll end it with that. Ezekiel.
Ezekiel 37:1.
Let me see. Yeah, 37:1.
Okay. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 1. The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones.
Right.
Verse 2. And caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, they were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry.
So this is Ezekiel being carried out in the spirit, right? And he goes into this valley that's full of bones. And it was a lot of these bones, and these bones were very dry. Keep reading.
Okay. Verse 3. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest.
So he asked Ezekiel, the Lord asked Ezekiel, can these bones live? All of these dry bones? And Ezekiel said, I don't know, Lord. Only you would know that, Lord. Only you the only one that got the answer to that question, because I don't know, sir. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
So he told him to prophesy unto the bones. A lot of times we're told, there's a precept that says to prophesy to the wind. So we go out there and speak, and just to say, there's nobody outside. We're still going to speak to the wind. We're still going to prophesy to the wind, even though no one is actually physically in front of us. We're still going to speak, and the words of the Lord will still reach someone. The Lord is telling him to prophesy to these bones, to speak to them. Go ahead.
Come on.
Where you at? You still there?
I'm here. So like can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's tripping. So like this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 5. Thus saith the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live.
Right. So he's saying, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. The precept is the breath of life. This right here is your precept for the breath of life. And the Lord God breathed the spirit into Adam, right? The breath of life, right? What is the breath of life? Prophesying is speaking life. That's what you're doing when you go out. When we go out there in the streets, we're speaking life to brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
Come on. Verse 6. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Right. So in your mind, just imagine like a skeleton starting to get the sinew, starting to get the the muscles and the tendons, and it's starting to build up into a body. Right. Keep reading.
Come on. Verse 7. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. Verse 8. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them.
Right.
Verse
Go
9.
ahead.
Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith the Lord God, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain that they may live. Verse 10. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army.
You hear that? So he breathed the spirit. He prophesied on these bones, and eventually they started to live, and they stood up a great and exceeding army. That's what we do when we go to the streets. When we're teaching on the internet, we are breathing the breath of the Most High into our people who are dead, who are the dry bones, who are skeletons, who are zombies, who are the dead walking around with no life in them, and we're bringing them back to life. We're resuscitating them. We're hitting them with that thing that what was that? What, the defibrillator? We're hitting them with the defibrillator and bringing them back to life, and then teaching them to remember or bethink who they are in the land of their captivity. You understand? Right. With that, I'm gonna end the class. The water for y'all rocking with me. The water for the young man being here. We'll be back next week, Wednesday, and we'll get into some more history. We'll break down something else. I probably want to go back into the Aztecs and the Mayans and go into some of their history, just to prove and show that they do fit the curses, and also that part of some of their language was ancient Hebrew. With that, Shalom, Israel.
Shalom.
Shalom, yo man.